Yes.
Okay, great. Uh, so actually, I try to reorganize things. So I'll try to so we'll try to see what are learning so far, what I've done. We'll try to see a single snapshot view. So we'll try to concentrate on single use case where this has nothing to do with our existing templates or anything. If any new design completely from scratch, any custom design, if you have to design, so how do we design? So that is the crux of this whole idea. So we have a requirement here. So something like for the customer called Collins Aerospace, where they have wanted to build some customized dashboard. So use cases like this. So they have an IT operations team, and in order to monitor critical systems and during regular upgrade activity, so they need to monitor real-time status of the landscape. So suppose every week, if some of the other production release, if they are on weekly release or monthly release, whenever the release happens, so they need to ensure that least amount of downtime is there in the platform. So further, they want to have a single shot of all the systems. Suppose they're having some 4 or 5 systems. So all the 5 systems, they would like to see the response time. So that is the whole objective of it. And what they are trying to say, so we have objective is to provide a dashboard which will quickly alert DevOps team to check the high impact landscape. So which is a highest impacted landscape, where maybe during the upgrade activity there could be some lots of errors or dumps which be thrown, and due to which it is high impact as such. So they need to ensure that those high impact systems, they should immediately be alerted, and they should take immediate action. So for this scenario, so for any scenario, so this is a scenario. So for any scenario, what we have understood is this is the simple flow of steps which we have to follow. So first, we'll try to put as a persona, like we understood. We'll take one single shot resume. So and then we have to come up with a wireframe. Then we can start with a prototype followed by actual development. So once these steps are through, then only we'll complete with the deployment. So this cycle remains same no matter what use case we are taking it. So for the case of simplicity, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to this use case, if we are skipping this persona step, and straight away if we have a wireframe. So right now this is how our wireframe we have designed using in Azure. So idea is we'll have two sections on top, and based on date they can select whatever suppose if they want to see backlog of records, logs of the records, so what are the usually high errors etc happening etc, so they can use a date filter to check the data. And below are the systems will show as a tiles. So here we have crm, plm etc, and we'll have multiple reporting reports, kind of any reports are there or some graphs or charts are there. So we'll place it as analytics, and then on the dashboard tile we'll see all the tile based information. So this is how we can come up with a wireframe. And once we start designing it, ideally we should be able to see something as this way. Okay, so we'll have a systems on the top, we'll have a date selection and the company logo etc, we can place it of which are relevant logo on here. And we are trying to show two categories of systems which are under maintenance currently and which are critical, where there is too many errors. So here general terms which are used are queue depth, system errors, application errors, number of threads. So here higher the queue depth, that means more is the severity. So those systems which are hang very high, like in this case ECC and success factors, so those will be placed under critical systems. And which are there is ongoing maintenance happening, then they'll be categorized as under maintenance. So we are trying to show highlights of the systems at the same time. For a specific date as such, they can view the past logs as well. So that's the whole front of it. And we have some other sections called analytics, where they will try to show some you know charts around it. And some idea is we are to practice what all different ways we can try to present. So we are trying to present. So in this we'll try to see these sections. Further, if you want to add anything, some tabular reports etc, also we can add include. And these are like optional sections just included. So if at all any other functionality we want to give also, we can try to add those functionalities. And now here, when they look at it, so in this case, ECC is hide up. So if they want to look at the system address, etc., instead of going into the system straight away, what we would try to do is they can click on this uh, individual action, and it should throw them a fragment showing all the errors, etc. So application report and everything data would be shown to them. So here, if you see, we are trying to use all our learnings. We'll try to present it in our application, and we'll try to make use of different scenarios. So this is what we are trying to build now, and the idea is to have them a centralized dashboard. Clear?
Hmm.
So first and foremost here, what we tried is, so as this doesn't fall under any template category, like we are designing from scratch, so we have to select. We'll go to view command palette and open application generator. Then under freestyle, we choose blank template. So there is no template as such. We can just opt for this blank template. Straight away, we can select service. Here I'm using EPM service. So in the service itself, I have mentioned it. So EPF ref Broadman service I'm just trying to use. So it simulates more of all the required data around as such. Very quick information. So I'm giving a view name as app, and then we'll call it as dash. Okay.
So you selected the freestyle
Correct.
option. Okay.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I was just trying to do it along with you. So.
Okay. So idea is blank template we are trying to take, and we'll try to construct. So any use case whenever we have, generally, if doesn't fit into the regular scenario, then we'll take free blank template, and we'll try to design our own scenario.
Mm.
And here I'm trying to choose all options, and this is meant for like in on-premise or cloud where we want to deploy. If we want to specify, we'll select as yes. And launchpad configuration. So as a tile to automatically read a tile, etc., we'll create FLB configuration. Advanced options, nothing but it will ask us to select which are UFA version and what theme we want to use. Only that's the only. This is for. It's not required. We can. They are just asking us to capture some application generate tool product usage, etc. This we can ignore. This is just a tool. They're asking for any reporting, etc. Any issues happen, so they're just asking us. So for whenever you're deploying, make sure that ABAP on-premise. If you're doing ABAP system client username, you have to connect to the whichever the client you want, and so that automatically we can publish our changes. So in this case, this I'll try to use it here, and for this, let me open this as well. I'll keep it as none for now, and then when I import it, I'll add it. So here we have to give the API endpoint of Cloud Foundry so that it will automatically go and it will be deployed there. So I'll give the name later. I just specified as none, so I can change in the manifest anytime. I can go back and I change. So I'll give as dev. Let's see, as monitor. This one, any name we can give. So as long as this we have to define in UI to SAM object. From here, if you're connected in the previous step to on-premise, etc., so automatically they'll go and sit there. Else we have to create manually as well. So these all are whatever we give it. If we can always go back and change in the manifest. So there is no issue that we have to always keep it the same intact here, right? So all these properties are going to add in our manifest file. So tile name will give as finish. That's it. So all anything or all we primarily select is type of template, which OData service to use, and where we want to deploy, whether cloud or on-premise. These are the three things we specify in our wizard as a general practice. So we need to make sure that we are having these three things handy, right? So in this case, I once we added it, so that will be adding up. So I just added one more blank instance here. So this is dashboard v1 is our instance. Now once it is created, we'll get a blank app view, etc. Right? So here I have created one more instance here. So the moment I have a view, so this is how it will come. And now in order to construct this particular layout, so if you see this layout, if you notice carefully, where we are having three sections. So one complete vertical box layout, we have to have a layout. Within that, if you see, there are like three sections. One section, horizontal section one, horizontal section containing date picker, etc., logo, and second section having our icon tab bars, and a third section having the tiles, right? So three sections. So how do we construct this layout? First of all, we have to construct the layout before starting any process. So how do we construct this? So in this case, I am trying to add one single VBox. If you see here, so within our so this is our page section. So this is a standard way it got created. Then in the VBox, I just created VBox, and then I added one HBox section. So we have a one VBox where it represents the dashboard.
Mm.
And then we are adding section one, H1. It's nothing but for the header,
Mm.
right? So in that again, we are trying just remove this section as well. I'll keep it here. So for once, this is the place where we want to try to add our dashboard. Then we have three H boxes, like I said. So we'll add three H boxes. And always make a note to add some dummy labels first or comments as such. That will allow you to visualize things whether the layout has been correctly constructed on,
Mm.
because this without any structure we'll not able
Mm.
to visualize whether the structure is created intact or not. So what are we expecting the same desired way the layout is ready or not, we don't know. So here what I'll say is I'll say as header. So first horizontal box we want to place an header, and second horizontal box we want to place some icon tab bars. So what I'll do is I'll just structure this way. So this is my tabs, header, tabs, and then the third section I want to place my tiles, right? At the ground level, at the layman, this is how our structure should appear. So if we go back to our screen, so if you see, we got a tile and we got three sections, header, tabs, and tiles, right?
Mm.
So we should visualize it this way. So okay, once we got this structure, so then we have to each section we have to further try to add elements on top of it. Now one at a time we'll try to take. So always, so at the we will not be able to visualize it this way, but this we got that same building block. So the simplest form, this is how it will look. Now I'll remove this. I do not want any tile bar here, so I'll try to remove the tile bar. So just we'll keep our API ready, and then in the header section we got now again one more, one, two, three, and four. For four elements we are trying to place. So I'll
Mm.
use within this section some four more sections this way. So what we try to do is, so now header section in the first H box. So this is our section one. Let's add one. So critical section is one we wanted to add, and then we wanted to add some for maintenance activity, some alerts we want to queue, and then we want to give some date selection, and then we want to add some logo. So logo we can add it first. So we want to give some what are the company logo we have. So that logo and then critical maintenance sections and then date sections. So we are trying to just create this structure. So we are going to get this layout. Now when we try to save this, so technically we got this way, and I'll just add so as PUI tiny margin. So I'll say just begin so that at the start of each section we'll get in this case first one I'll say as so I'll just add this to every section,
Mm.
right? Correspondingly, we'll get the space structure. So we have to space these sections also individually. So accordingly, how much our space we want later, we'll change it to margin, medium, or large, etc. So that accordingly, the in between spaces will control, right?
Mm.
So now technically, we should when we should make sure there are no issues. So header section we have logo, then critical section, maintenance section, date section, right? So this is
Mm.
how we wanted to place, correct? So we got this structure, and then we wanted to have tab structure, and then we wanted to have our tile structure, right? So so once we have this structure, now what we can do is we can try to start adding things. So first and foremost, what I'll do is I'll remove my header. So I'll go to page control. So it is page. So we want more space to the section. So I'll just there is an option called show header true or false, show footer, etc. So footer, if you do not want, etc., we can remove it. So I'm
Mm.
just trying to go to my application and just I'll remove my header section. So I'll set it to false. So now this should give me complete space. So there is no header. So we
Mm.
have directly the full complete page for our own customization, right? So we got a blank, we starting blank. Now we'll try to add individual sections. So let me add. So I'm taking one title and text, one VBox section at a time. Okay. So here, if you see this output here, so here what we have is I'm using one title and then one text, right? So this again, in order to construct, this is one simple vertical box, and this is one simple vertical box containing two elements, and this is straight away one date picker control, and this is one icon control. So at the bottom level, when we break down, these are individual components. Now in the section one, we'll try to create this first single item. So how do we create it is, so here in this section, in the header section, now we'll try to add logo first. So for adding logo, either we can use image tag or we can use icon tag. So we can, if you want to use standard icons, anything which are available, we can use icon tab. So where icon, whatever icon we have from the tool
Mm.
section, we can pick it up the tools. So in this example, I have picked up UF icon, which will show me. So instead of this, we can take any image icon as well. So if you want to pick any standard icons, we can pick standard icons or any standard logo as well. And in this case, let's say select something like some image. So sap.image, we can give this SAP logo as an image, right? So I'll go to image tag, and I'll use just the source of it. So we can nicely place it this way. So first section, when we add it, So I'll remove this logo now. So instead of logo, what we can do is I can comment this, and this section I'll add it. So why this labels are, they'll help us to visualize our layout. So we'll comment it after when it is no longer required. So instead of going across each and every section, now if you construct the layout first, so it gives you to position the controls accurately. So instead of every time going and back whether how many H boxes V boxes I have to place within which, so it will be a you'll have to go back and forth. So if you have these labels, we can comment those and then we can add individual sections as such.
Mm.
So that's the advantage of it. So I'll take, I think I have, I'll have an image. So any custom URL, you can pick it up. Let me take space. So I have this image. Um, Copy link address. Let me open. So we have this image, right? So I'll use this image as our logo. So I can pass this. We can place the image in any image folder as well, so that way as well we can do, or we can straight away use URL as well. So whichever the way we want to give, we can give it. This is URL need not be, if it is coming from OData service also, we can directly give. If it's coming from OData service, we have to give in curly braces, else we can give
Mm.
direct URL as well. So this should give us a logo. It's not able to access. Okay, I think let me open it this way. No, I think it is link address. Yeah, this that is having other elements, so it's not able to recognize. I've just pinpointed to individual image element. This should give me the actual image. So we can use element section as well. The element section will also give us. I think this is pointing to exact image, right? So we got that image, but it is too enlarged. So
Mm.
what I'll try to do is I'll try to shrink it. So any image whenever you need it from official website, generally we have it, so we can use it there. Here we can use copy link address that will give us the image location, or we can use inspect element. So if I go to Collins website as well. So here you can click on it and we can click on inspect. So this would always take you to the image location. So this is the image URL. If you see here,
Mm.
so you can copy this link as well. Uh, so this is how we can read as well. So of any way we can try to take. So I'm trying to build, this is a customer for us. So I'm trying to make
Mm.
it as realistic as possible, right? So that is right. So let's make it, we can use image properties, height and width, etc. I'll try to add some width property so that I'll keep it as 20 px, height of 15 px. Let's see how much it comes. I think it is too small. Yeah, so I'll keep this. So this looks fine for us. So we'll stick with this, and then critical section, etc. Now in order to now let's add critical section. So like I said, we wanted to add two elements to it. So I'll just add a vbox to it. So I'll take one vbox. So I'm taking one container here, vbox, and I'm using a title attribute, and then text attribute. So only two elements we are taking it.
Mm.
To get it uniform space, etc. What we are trying to do is I'm just trying to use spaces around tiny margin, begin, and on top, etc. And for custom CSS also, I'm using some CSS colors. At the last, to add different colors to it, we can add some CSS. So here all we use is when vbox with title and text property. Once we add it, if you see, uh, we got if you see systems under maintenance, CRM, etc. So the vbox section, first section, when we construct, we are getting it this way, right? So similarly, one more vbox for different section. Let me add. So now for maintenance section, we can just comment this.
How do you do that? Like, what's a keyboard shortcut for that?
Control slash.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
if you
you.
use control slash, it will automatically comment.
Great.
And then we have one more vbox container. So here, just name it. You give it an unique IDs for each of section. So critical container, I'll just say critical container. Then okay, just now we added two sections here. So now we got systems under maintenance, CRM. So this doesn't have still the CSS. So once we add CSS, then we'll get this. We'll control the look and feel of it. Then we'll try to add one date picker. So we can go for the date
So
control.
the top line was in the center and the bottom one is towards left aligned, right? Are there any controls to get them both aligned?
Correct. So here, this is a section. Once we add CSS, then we'll have the look. So here to align as well, we can use always the classes.
Text
See why
line.
they are it. So
Text.
we can use this tiny margin equal. If you want to both equal, we have to set the same spacing.
Okay.
See for the title attribute as well. If you notice it here, so I have given medium margin at the start and the end. Okay, that's why the title it is not coming at. If I remove these CSS classes, both will come in the straight line.
Hmm.
So what I was trying to is giving a tiny margin for the text element, whereas a medium margin for the title element. That's the reason you could see some space at the start of it, and it is appearing as a title. And whereas this text, we are starting with a little tiny margin, so you are getting very minute space here.
Hmm.
So that's the way we are trying to present
Hmm.
it. Now, if you see on the top also I have added a space. So for this date element, I haven't added any space, so there is no space on top. For to add some space on the top and bottom, so what we try to is we used SAPUI tiny margin top.
Hmm.
Okay, so these are the standard CS classes we play around to give nice space around each control. So you have
Hmm.
to place individual elements. Okay, so that's how we are trying to see. These are plain VBox. Each section in that we are trying to add a title, text, etc., and we are trying to use CSS to make it more appealing. Now we can pick date and time picker, or any only date. If you want only date picker as well, we can pick. So IDs for any logs, etc., we want to show, so we can use this date picker control. Okay, so I'm just using date picker control. You can, as a third section, we'll comment this section, and then we'll add our date picker. I'll write it as date. So this should give us our header section. Now header section is we are ready. So we thought we wanted to have four objects in it, one with the logo and then date picker and then critical and maintenance section. So we got all the sections right.
Mm.
So let's comment our header section is over. That is header. This is not required. If you want we can delete as well. No longer required. So now header section is over. Next we move on to our next. So if you see here, this labels helps us to quickly identify the sections. So now we are one interested in tab section. So we can ignore the rest of the code, how it is, because we are done with that section. So if any issue happens, issue will happen only at this location. So we can fix the location as well. So this way we are clear that where it is going wrong also we are able to pinpoint. Now the tabs, what we can do is I'll for the tab structure I'll use icon tab bar, which we use it for can use it for tab structure. So here we can go with icons or only tabs, etc. Various design we have here. So whichever design we want to take, we can take the design. So here I'll have used there, but I'll use icons now. So this is our structure. This is an M control. So if you see this is an M control, so we need not to add any other library. So we can use icons and individual items there like tab filters. So it should come and output this way, right? This is what we want. So we want to have some tabs. So I'll comment this section called hbox now, and I'll try to add my icon tab. So I'll give one. Always make sure to give a proper ID. So ID tabs. Okay. So IDs are the one where we'll try to use. So I don't want this text area. So I'll give a text field. There's a text field missing. I want a text. Was this dashboard? So each icon tab bar. So here in the icon tab bar control, first icon and the item section they call it as filter. Filter one. This is filter two. This is filter three. So each tabs one tab. So one tab we are giving a text as well, and then we can give a key and can use any icons for the icons, etc. We can use the icon library to pick some icons, etc. So from the icon explorer we can pick whatever icon we want and we can use, etc. For the dashboard as well we can pick something, SAP icons. I'll say some dashboard. So we have some dashboard icon here. I'll just use this. Just replace it at the icon section, right? And let's keep this attachments as is. We do not need any count here. I'll remove this counts. This attachment. Let's notes also be there. Just each tab I'm giving a name, and then I'll say some analytics. Okay, so once we have this, so now we got some tab structure as well, and then now since we do not use CSS yet, so they won't have any appearance, but we wanted some tab structure and we got our tab structure, right?
Mm.
So we got our tab structure. So now we have to construct our tiles. So if you see now we got if you use a different without icons, so this is how you'll get. If you wanted some icons to add, etc. So the same icon tab bar you can remove these icons, then it will look this way, design. Okay, so here I added an icon. So icon, then we got this feature. So some more features, icon tab or features we can explore, and if you want to play around, and we can add some more features for the tab. But I'm trying to keep it. This is sufficient for our
Mm.
scenario. We will stick. Now we have to go for the third section where we want to have tiles. So if you see the tiles here, so I have used something called simple form. So form itself I have used, but it doesn't look like a form. So what I did is I used a form, and in the form I try to place different controls in it. So this control is a text control. This is a label control, and this is a numeric content field, so which will have some higher idea. And this is just a list box. So list box, I try to give some clickable events, and then I try to use a simple list box here, and I use a label and then a text field. So this whole container is a simple form, one form, if you
Mm.
ask me. So how did we get this structure, etc.? Let's see. So what we try to do is, so in this we'll write all our code only in our first tab called icon tab bar. So rest of the code we can ignore now. So this is the only area which we are trying to work. So dashboard section, just give it a name. I'll create some space. Now what I'll do is I'll create one more VBox. So to make room for it, I'll just write one here. One more thing I have to. So if you see here, again here this whole tile section, in order to create this tiles section, how many tiles we have? Again, we have 4 by 4 or 5 by 5 layout, whatever layout we want to have. Like we have seen the response grid layout, right? We can use response grid layout to achieve this, or we can use HBox, VBox. So last time I have used response grid layout, right?
Mm.
So how do
Mm.
we get the layouts, etc.? So we can use the same concept, or in this case, uh, like here we have used HBox, VBox, right? We can use HBox, VBox as well. So any of the approaches we are free to use. So here first of all I'll have to construct same structure like how we created above. Quickly I'll try to create one simple structure. So we need a VBox here. Again, this section itself is our separate page for us. So really, how many tiles we had there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 on single row, right? So we'll
Mm.
have two H boxes. Why two H boxes? Two rows. Uh, VBox is like vertical box is like
Mm.
your column, and
Mm.
how many rows we are having? Those are H boxes. In this case, two H boxes are required in a single width uh,
Mm.
field as such. So I'll go with uh, two H boxes. So we got two H boxes, and within this H box, we need to add four simple forms so that 1, 2, 3, 4 individual tiles will be placed. Correct. So now this
Can we
structure.
also use like tile itself, like that the
Yes, we can
tag
use
is.
tile as well, but the tile has limited scope if it. So if you
Mm.
take the tile, we cannot have any customization to it. So I had to create my own tile. So we are free to use anything. We can use generic tile, or we can use tile container. So various other ways also we can definitely build. So
Mm.
generic tile, if you take generic tile here, it gives us only limitation of adding an icon, etc. There's no more other properties we can add. So I thought of like creating my own tile and my own. So different ways how do we design, etc. I was trying to say. Either two ways is we can use this, but here we cannot add more options to this tile, right?
Mm.
So
And
and
also it's hard to like incorporate microchart. I tried to do that into the tile, but it
no,
was
it
a
doesn't
bit
support. Yes,
difficult.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, that's the problem. See, these controls can be extended, but it will take
Mm.
lots of time. Okay.
Mm.
So it is like tedious way. So there are always like multiple ways. Say standard SAP, whatever they suggest, we need not actually stick to the blindly to them. So like
Mm.
yesterday also like unit testing when I'm saying official SAP says certain ways, but those are like very tedious and time taking process. Okay.
Right.
We need not always stick to what's by the book. Okay. We can see which fits for the scenario. Ultimately, one customer expects is how best we can use the framework to build whatever scenario we want. Right.
Mm.
So that's the objective. So we should
Keep it
look
keep
at.
it simple, right, and
Correct.
minimalist. Yeah.
See, if you are able to achieve the same task using different approach, you are free to do. That's the
Mm.
simple way we should try to stick to it. Okay, so we can officially, if you ask me, you can go and extend this control and we can play around, but that is very tedious way to do. And there is some certain standard tile I think that got deprecated. So there is a tile content. So we can use this as well to add some microcharts. So in this case, if you see, these are some numeric content, etc., some icons. But still, this has own limitations.
Mm.
So what we are trying to do is I am trying to use CSS. With the help of CSS, I'll transform that into nice style. So users.
Within forms, can we incorporate microcharts?
Um, Microchats are RAM controls. As long as it's the RAM controls, we can use it. So,
Okay.
but always we need to make sure there are exceptions. So sometimes the parent, if the charts microchats currently M table supports it, but forms I
Mm.
haven't tried. So table control they have given direct compatibility.
So it's
The
like for the same library, then it is compatible. If it's two from two different libraries, then we may be face challenges, right?
So you in the framework, them if they haven't put any restriction, then it is fine. See, like I said, aggregations. So
Mm.
aggregations are like there is mandatory that you need to have a form, then only you can add form element, form content, etc. Like
Mm.
for microchats, unless it is not restricted, so it is not a protected class, then we can use as a if it is a public class, we can use across multiple controls. So ideally, no restriction would be there. We can use in any of the places, but that exception we need to make sure
Mm.
it supports. Okay, so I think we can use any of that as well. So in this case, I try to use some of this so image content, news content, anything. So numeric content itself, now we are trying to use. So this number, etc. This is what we are trying to use
Mm.
now as well. So so two H boxes, V box within the H box we constructed. Now here we have to add multiple forms, right? So
Mm.
what I'll do is I'll give a name for it, and then I'll just add one form. I'll just take form. So each tile I'm giving a label here. First tile I'm just calling it. Uh, okay. So for CRM tile I'm giving ID as CRM tile, and title as CRM. That's it. So number of columns just one. So each form here we want to have just one form for one tile. So just one column, nothing more. And I have given as a response layout. That's it. So once I've given it, I can go and check back. Yeah, form layout library we have to add. So let
Yeah,
me
it's about
add
this.
the
That,
form
like
layout.
F F.
Correct. So in whatever the name we are giving it, so we have to make sure we have the same thing.
Mm.
So this is not part of M library. So either microcharts are part of M
So
library.
we were able to
So
do so much with just S one M library, right?
yes,
Mm.
correct. So M libraries are sufficient for all the cases, because if we are sticking to M library, we have lots of benefits as well. Now we got one CRM tile. Okay, we had
Mm.
to add the attributes. So what I'll do is I'll try to add multiple tiles here now. So how many tiles we wanted in this H box? So I'll just add 5 by 5. What are we want? We list. So CRM, HCM. Okay. Okay. So make sure you give an ID, because those are the things which we'll be able to control when you're trying to use. So I'll say some random systems I'll take. So here one more important thing to notice here is don't here for each system, technically speaking, if we have to construct all the data, we have to go back and fetch from different systems, right? They are
Mm.
not in the same system. So how do we design the services? Either we can have see, instead of logging into every system and then looking at the errors, etc., we are simplifying the job. All the six systems we are showing it as a single shot. So ideally, if they have to use it, they have to log into each system and they have to check whether it is working fine or not, right? So that is
Mm.
a very time taking job. So here we can use six different JSON models or OData models, or you can, if you want to simplify it, they can create a view which will using in the back you can connect to all the systems, and then you can fetch the data and you can design your OData such a way that you will get a single OData service. All the systems data you are able to aggregate it. Okay,
Mm.
so that is one way. Or if you have individual systems, if you today they added five systems you created, but tomorrow they asked to add two more systems. So you can keep your design very flexible. Simply you can create one JSON model or model, and you can just what are the data points you have, you can create one service on that particular system, and you can directly add that one additional model here. So we can keep each system as one OData service, so independently. So if new system comes also, you can directly add a simple service to your application. So this is also typically generally practice they'll ask us. So most of the customer, they have multiple systems, and they say major problem is every time they have to sign in, then go, that itself eats their most of the time. Okay, so if you are able to fetch the data using some OData service, etc., then we can simplify uh, similar use cases across many places. So key here is uh, connecting to different systems and fetching them through OData. If you are able to fetch it, then you are actually making their life easy. In single applications, all 6 systems without login, we are fetching all the data and we are showing it, analytics, etc. So that is the beauty of this. Salesforce style, right? Let's see if the structure we are able to get. So we got a structure. So we can, what we can do is we can reuse this structure. So I can create same structure in one more H box we have, right? 2 rows we wanted to add. So here we'll just try to add in our second section. But you have to make sure you have the IDs defined. I'll create, uh, if not, let me. See, layout, setting the layout is the first step you have to do. So you should not jump into adding the code for rest of the things. Problem is layout. If it is you're fixing it, then you can add logic on top of it. That way, we can see our final layout. If not, later on, spacing, etc., where you have to adjust, etc., they all can go for a toss.
कुछ है? अच्छा अच्छा ना आती है
Right. So we got 2 rows and then we have got sections. So our layout is completely ready. So whatever layout we intended to have, so we got the layout ready. So it's all about adding the controls, etc. Right? This layout we got now 2 rows, etc. And we can remove this style section, which are we have written it on top.
I think it was at the bottom, I guess V box or something.
Uh, yeah, here. So our icon tab bar we added at the bottom. We have it. So right. So we are good with this stage, and now what I'll do is I'll quickly we'll focus on one tile. So one tile, if we are ready, then all our tiles are just uh, repetition of our tiles structure. So in the form, like I said, if you go back to the design here, so we are having first in this style 3 elements are there: one label, and then numeric content, then list box. So I'll try to add once again. We can add one H box here, and within the HBox we can place it 2 elements, or we can straight away place the controls as well. So whichever the way we want to use, we can construct it. So like inside again, when we go down one level inside, then we have to construct individual block of elements. So I'll create one simple structure here. So I'm creating a VBox here and box. I'm calling within this form now as a container. So for this CRM tile, I'm taking one VBox as a container. And first I added one HBox and one text field, and then one numeric content field. So numeric content will give us, if you we can use text as well. It gives very small font. So like here we have seen, right? So this numeric content will be more. We can add colors to it. So if it is
Mm.
critical, etc., we can show some red, orange, etc. So if it is back again, if there is no errors, etc., we can again show it as green. If we can set some threshold above 50, then it is a very critical system. Below 100, it is a safe system, etc. We can give some color indicator, and like we have seen the formatter, we can construct this as well. So if we use this structure, now this should give us our tile with some q depth and value. So there is no value mapped here, so it is coming as empty. When we start adding some value to it, it will appear it. Okay. So I can, for the test purpose. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think value. It's not. Okay. Fine. We'll map the field. Then we'll get to know. So all we added is on VBox, and first row, in order to add in that, we are trying to add HBox and text and numeric content. Now similarly, now next section what we'll try to add is, so first row we got. So here first row we got. Now second row is like I said, it's a list box.
Mm.
So see, visualizing that is what the key for us. I'm just adding a simple list here. So below this list box. So it's a plain simple list box. So we added just CRM list, and here in the list I added 3 items. So one item, they're like, we can add column list, standard list. They're like multiple list items as sub aggregation for list item. So I just choose the simplest one, which has some title and then which is clickable. So standard list item, if when I add it, so I can give a title here and then some press event. So for if you want to this each list item to be clickable, then we have to set the type as active. Once the type is active, then only it will have the behavior of hyperlink kind of like
Mm.
press event we can have.
Mm.
Most of the cases, whenever you give a press event straight away, certain controls, what they happen is, if you add press event, if you do not specify the type as active, they will not be clickable. So press event, though you add a press event, it won't work. Reason being is they are in certain controls will have default property as inactive, so they are not clickable. Okay, so type you have to set to active if you want them to be navigated. So here what I'm trying to is, I'm trying to add a fragment on click of it. So we have seen the previous class, right? So same way, one fragment I'm trying to, on click of it, I'm trying to load it to display all system errors and all application errors, etc. So 3 sections we added, stating system errors, application error, number of threads, and then that should give us one nice tile here. It
Mm.
is getting truncated, though we have given 400. The spacing, etc., we have to control it, right? So now we got tile structure, and it is clickable. Okay, if you see, we got the structure. At the last, I am trying to add a timestamp, which will state. For that, I'll use a simple label and text property. Okay, so I will use simple label and text property. Okay. Again, I just to commit in the same row, we use a HBox, so that label and text will be appearing in the same row. I gave a label as updated it, and I added text field stating that it's a text field, right? Now we got one simple tile here. So now once we can here now instead of repeating for all the things, what we have to do is we have to start binding our OData. So we got our basic skeleton ready, and we
Mm.
got, so first we have to start mapping our OData service. So if we start mapping OData service now, then we can visualize it, whether the data is binding etc are working also. Now we have done a check for layouts, it's done. Then we started constructing our first tile, that is also done. Third step is binding. If binding is also done, then it's just a repetition of the first process to all the other systems, right? So that's how we'll try to bridge the gap. So now for this, in order to, now we'll go move back to our control. So our job in UI is done. Now currently our control is completely blank. So what I do is, we have defined in the service, if you go to manifest, so I have choose EPF ref apps broadband service. So this is a free service. So I have listed in here as well. So in the GitHub as well. So this is a service we are using it. So I'll try to load the service first. Okay, for that I'll go to controller, right? So here as well, there is a simple approach I follow. Right. So first and foremost, whenever we are doing in on it, it's good practice to add. I mean, we can use from the manifest straight away, or you can do a simple check here this way. So we can service URL, whatever service you are using, you can place a URL in a variable called service URL, and you can create your own model. So in this case, I'm using the OData model or JSON model, so you can use. So for this model, we are just passing the service URL, right? So this model, now I wanted to set it to our page. So this is main view corresponding main controller. So we are saying set this model to the view. So this dot get you dot set model o model. So our OData service, we are binding it to the view, right? So we'll do this basic check and we'll see if so it is working fine. So we are able to load this. So our controller, there is it was able to load. Can just reload this again. uh, I can open main.controller. So our model, we can always check whether we are able to load the model. Okay, so we are, because when our controller, if there is no error, then only our view will be loading it. So that is the interdependency. Because we add on the first line itself, we'll try to add as this is our controller. If you see, first line itself we specify, and the second line, this is a controller. So it will first load the controller logic. So if that itself any error is there, this page will not load at all. Now, quickly, what I do is I create individual models. Like I said, for each tile, we try to connect to individual systems. So in this case, I'll try to work with three different concepts. We'll try to work. So I'll create one within on in it. I'll create a section called CRM data, and then I'll create um, one JSON model. Okay. So I created one JSON model, and here what I'm trying to do is existing data. So this is how we have data. Show you here. So there's I'm taking product set, and in that product set, one entity, I have some values which I have some numeric attributes. Okay, dimension, height, etc., and weight measure. So I'm going to reuse these fields as some error indicators. So what are numbers we are showing it, right? Realistic. So some system errors, etc., and Q depth. So I'm going to use this service. So this service allows us to visualize realistically what are values we have. So for the case of realistic data, I'm trying to use one. So in our case, one row item product ARFP 1000 is one tile data. So this all the data, realistic data, whatever we have, we try to use it there. So for that purpose, I'm taking one row out of predict set called ARFP 1000. So in order to read this data, so as this data, we need D. Then within the D, which are the field we have to map, right? So
Mm.
what I do is I try to construct or model. So I'll give my CRM model data. This is the path of my URL model, and I'll set it to which section. So I have given individual sections one name. So we have given CRM section for this container. I have set as CRM container VBox. So this vertical box area we wanted to bind those data, right? So for the page we have set the complete OData service, whereas only this particular CRM product set I'm trying to bind it to only the CRM container section. So rest of the tiles we are not setting it. So this one we call it as named models. So this JSON model I have taken, and I have to load this JSON model as well. Let load JSON. So let's add a library here as JSON model. So we are loading JSON model. So as we are using JSON model here, we have to load this particular library called JSON model. Similarly for OData, either you can use full path here or you can load the OData model library as well. So this like we have mapped this. Now we can just try to bind the path here. So for the value here, so as we have given the name as CRM, so for this model, so I have to start with name as CRM, and if you check the content here, it is under D path we have respective field. So here I'll try to use weight measure property which has 224 as or errors. So D slash weight measure is should be our qualified path, right? D slash weight measure. So this should give us our data. So similarly, I'm just binding dimension height, etc. So this should give us our desired data, right? So here similarly, so D is that weight measure how we have mapped it. So I just mapped other fields like average rating, here dimension height, dimension width, dimension depth. So those properties I'm trying to map to this particular sections, individual sections. So if you date, like I said, so like date format, how we use format logic, we have to use the format logic, and we have to this JSON date we have to convert it. So once we start converting it, it will also appear. Now we were able to successfully check how it works for one section. So likewise, we have to add multiple sections. So to take advantage of one other example where lifecycle methods we have talked about, right? So instead of on init, what I'll do is I'll add on after entering. We can add all the models now. So second system, second tile, what are the second tile? HCM tile. So we can add HCM tile, all of the tiles in the on it itself. So to show the rendering effect, so I will use I said in our earlier classes, initial classes, we discussed about lifecycle methods. So we have four lifecycle methods: on init, on after rendering, on before rendering, and on exit. So if we first of all, if we load application, first on it will be loading it. So after rendering it, if after this, what is the priority? If you have to set a priority, we can give some properties on after rendering. So this we'll use generally for graphics, etc. So if you are using any background image, etc., you want the content to load first, than the images, etc. Then we can set in on after rendering, on before rendering, as a matter of order of execution.
Mm.
So I'll just use on before rendering. This is just for illustration. You can use directly on it. We generally don't use on after rendering, on before rendering, not required. So here I'll say system as Java HCM. HCM can define as HCM model, container. Let's make sure we have given the right ID. So second section is HCM tile, and we haven't added any section. So I'll just reuse the same container for our second tile as well. Once we have designed it for one, making it for other is pretty straightforward. In this case, our container is HCM. I'll use HCM. All I have to do is specify my model. Correct. So rest of the things, everything will remain the same. Now all we are trying to do is, so make sure you where are IDs we have defined it. So we have to unique IDs we have to have throughout the application. We cannot have IDs. So what I'll do is I'll do Control F, CRM, then I'll say with HCM. It'll check for me. Place. Okay. Okay. I think all got fine. Let's check now. We'll change this data to some other data as well. 1001. Yeah, we have 1001 record. So ARFP is different record. Can use other record section 2. Any more ID left? HCM sys. This ID has HCM app. We have given us this date field. We have date field. Right, we are good. Okay. It seems to be an error. Let's check it. It says HCM QD is a duplicate edit. Okay, there is one more element. Container domain HCM QD Q depth. Okay, I have given a Q depth. Yeah, it's else have I used this? I think two places I have used same keyword. HCM tile. Okay, this got changed. See, if we have the same ID at multiple places, so system will not be able to identify it. How to make sure. Okay, multiple places it got changed. Okay. Okay, when I replaced it, it got replaced at multiple places. HCM with CRM. Replace. So previously, when I used it, it got overridden with the above areas as well. So CRM tile also got changed with HCM tile. So that's the reason it is failing to load. Check. Yeah. So now we got our second tile as well, and we got the CRM and HCM tile. So likewise, we can replicate to other tiles and etc. Then we should able to have our desired tile structure. But how did we actually get this particular look and feel? So for that, again, we'll take the help of CSS. Now, for like now the binding etc. Once we are clear. So if you notice it here, if the loading factor here, because of two tiles you may not notice it, but on before rendering and on after rendering. So first this is loading, then if you see the on it factor is coming because this is placed in on after rendering. Okay, So that factor, etc., those there will be very minute difference. So when it runs, so if you want to have some performance adjustment, etc., we can bifurcate into different methods this way. So this lifecycle method, instead of on after rendering, if you place everything in on it, everything will load at the same time. But likewise, instead of you place some of the models in on before rendering, etc., so the order of execution will be first on it, then on after, on before rendering, on after rendering, etc. That order of execution will just change. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's how we can use lifecycle methods. So here I'll just in the CSS folder, now my CSS is blank and empty. So I'll just show you how easy and nicely we can get. So I have taken one style property, and here I'll just say for my column 1, column 2. Now I just I added one column 1. So first column. So first column, second column. So column 1, column 2, whatever color we want to add. So I'm just trying to take. I can take some different color here. And in the view, all we have to set is, if you see, we have defined our structure here, right? So each
Yes.
tile we have defined one form. So for the form, I have defined a CSS class called equal one. For the second tile, I'll say as equal two.
Hmm.
Okay. Alternate, I can use it, and here one and two accordingly, correspondingly, that should render me the different color effect, right? So here, in order to have a right matrix, so general practices. So for the call-ins aerospace, like in previous sections also, sometime I have explained. So
Hmm.
take if we have brand guidance, etc. So from this, take an image. Now here, what all colors are there generally? Black, white, and orange are there. So we have to take a paint, and then you can grab this color using color picker tool. You can pick these colors. Okay. So this is these colors alone we can try to add it. So there is one more way. There is a plugin called colors. Okay, in the web COO colors.co. So this is there is a plugin from web by apps. You can install this plugin as well, or you can use this website as well. So here, if you are completely building completely new, you can click on the star generator. This will give us the combination of colors to choose for our application. Okay, so if you see here, this here it will give us some payload. Here you can type the space bar and it'll give us right combinations of colors which will make our application appealing. Okay, so you can click on space bar, it will suggest you lots of other color combinations.
That's
If you
cool.
are not specifically designing, see colors, CSS, combination of colors, right colors alone will give you the that wow factor. Okay, so unless client has any specific colors in mind, then you can use this add-on. So you can install this add-on in WebID also. We have it. So in extensions. So I generally use this as a add-on. So I for the testing Selenium I use, and for colors generally I use this. So you can just enable this. So if you enable this instead of going to website, so whenever you enable it, you click on new tab, then automatically it will directly that website itself will come as a color panel. All you have to use is space bar. So if you toggle it off again, new tab it won't come. So any new tab you open, that colors will appear as your you know factor. Here all you have to do is you can copy this. This is a hex value to use this color. So I'll try to use different colors. I think this looks good. So let me use this. So now I click on this copy. So this hex value is copied. So I'll come back. I'll use this hex value. Always make sure hash is keyword which denotes color, hex value color.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can copy this. I can put. So if you wanted to have a uniform structure, so you can create four different colors. If you want, you can name it as equal three, and every three colors you can define different color. Whichever way you want to construct, it's up to you, the design. So I have to go back. So my third tile, I have to set it as three in this case. Or if you want to repeat back again, I'll say one again two. So that's how we try to specify
Also, we
the.
can actually repeat that like across the
Yes,
second
yes,
row.
yes, yes. CSS
Oh.
we can repeat how many ever times. Now if I wanted to, so if you see this design, so I repeated the same colors. So 1 2 again 1 2 again 1 2 1. So this matrix look, when you have to get, you should not use the same flow. For the alternate rows, you have to, again here you have to start with 2 and here 1, 2 and 1. Okay. So see, CSS alone will change the complete look, but that can be achieved using this kind of tools. If you use, they'll make more appealing. So if you have to use it, if you want, I'll just make it 1 and then this 2. So let me add some more tiles here. What I'll do is, so just it's just a repetition of other sections how we have done. So I'll generally write this way. So row to row to. So the comment section will allow us to read blindly. We can read the sections. Okay. So this simple form, it starts here ECC and four more tiles and it ends with row two. So I can stop it here. So all we play with comments again. So write I mean reasonable comments so that it will help you in playing around with your layout, etc. So I have to just replace these four tiles with that four sections. Okay. So this should give me nice layout. H box. Yes, H box. Mode it. Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, and then ECC. CRM is a tile. So we have this. Now I think there are no errors. So I think we are good with this. Similarly, now if I check here, okay, I think that H box is missing. Because of that it is coming as vertical, right? So I have to go back here. H box is closed, V box, right? So this H box, I have closed it here. This has to be closed at the end, right? So this is how we have it. So we got our first row, correct? So here alternate the way we place it. So it has to, technically speaking, 1 2 3. Third is ECC. So let me place ECC. ECC, this is my section. I'll use 1 and then 2 here and again 1. So we can reuse how many other times that CSS properties. So we are free to reuse. Now I think now our structure should appear uniform. So now we are getting uniform structure here. So once we start mapping the data as well, so then we'll get it. So one more beautiful way to do is, if you want to play around with multiple scenarios, all we have to do is we can create one more CSS file. So instead of messing with that, so if you wanted to try it out different form factors, simply all we can do is just new file and then we can say style2.css. Okay. So now you can play around with the same styles in different file altogether. And where we have to change is just we have to go to manifest and in the CSS section, like external libraries, what are doing, all you have to do is make it as 2. So the style 2. So instead of 1, try to use the so 4 or 5 or 10, how many ever look and form factors you want to have, you can simply change one line of code and then you are good to have different styles for your own styles. Now what I have done is, so our header section also, like for text white color and for background color brown. So here how we got this color is, background I have set one color and for the text I have set one color and for the title I have set one color. If you see header tile, so if I add these two lines of code, this is for background color. And to have some rounded edges, if you see there are like, instead of rectangle they're like slight rounded edges, so I have added border radius as 5 px. Okay. So if I just add this whole C section here, if you could see now, or DevOps section. So here it should apply to here. I have to define this header tile 1, etc. to our section. So where is our header section? It is on the top, right? So it should be a header tile, and then we are adding. No, I changed it to header tile style 2, right? I'll have to add it here. So and header tile text for the text field. So where are we using text field? So I'm using that for the title. I'm using this color, right? So if you see now, we got a background in the white color. So complete look, everything will be changed
Right.
based on the CSS. So that we can do as a last activity. So, but you construct the layout, then you can play around with the way you want. And for the text as well, now I'm using some gold color. So just using some here. So it looks so easy, but picking the right colors will only give you the right desired output. Okay, so these tools alone will give us that combination. So we try to think always we go with the wrong color choices, and that doesn't give us. So I highly recommend to use a certain. They give us right, shades of colors. So that alone will generally give us a better picture. And so we got the top section structure, and if you want we can add the back section as well. So simply what I can do is I can use we have the dark effect, right? I can use dark or quartz theme. So this will give complete makeshift look. See now how you got is more appealing because the right
Yeah.
colors we choose, it gives us the right effect. And I think I'll stop here. So,
Sure.
so we are able to get to the key element is any layout. Whenever we took first design the layout,
Mm.
then second step is construct the layout. Then third step is add CSS. Then we'll get our desired layout with the desired look and feel. So this is again playing around with the exact spaces, etc., and trying to replicate the same tile effect to all the tiles and binding to different sections. So once we try to add it, then we get it this uniform spacing and etc. So it's all about playing around with each sections more and trying to tweak around the different CSS parts. So ideally, then we should get this desired output. Clear?
Sure.
Okay. Try to
Yes.
see practice
Yes.
it. So if you have any questions, we'll discuss. And tomorrow, I try to try to simplify everything, and I created for your reference as well. So all the PPT decks, etc. And tomorrow I'll brief you how you have to use this structure and everything. I have placed it in GitHub as well.
Mm.
Um, all these projects also you have it there. GitHub. So here I try to add access content as well as this master UFI in 45 days section I just added. So here you'll get all the so far whatever we have discussed, um, uh, decks as well, and then reference content and all the access so far whatever we have done, everything I have tried to place it in the project section. And these are different access we have done. So either you can go for individual git reposters or you can directly use this zip control. So this is a project now which we, dashboard application which we have done, so complete scenario. So you can fall back for this area as well for
Mm.
whenever you need any reference. Okay, sure. Okay, then we'll catch up tomorrow. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you and
Yeah.
have a good day.
Yeah.